Sure, so you're going to start with phone. Now you can't change them out, can you?
No, because they got breaks.
Yeah.
Breaks.
Okay, we're going to call this meeting to order. So 1:42.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Is Karen on the line? Wait, hold on. I gotta get Karen on the line.
Okay, Karen. We're calling the meeting to order. 1:42. Roll call, board members.
Roll call.
You okay here?
Deborah Cass.
Ellen Raybauer.
Charlotte Kiffer.
Stand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is to approve the minutes. Executive minutes 325. Set 1, items A through L, and set 2, item M.
Madam Chair, I think there were changes to set 1 that were sent to the administrative assistant. And pending getting those changes back, can we put that on to the next meeting?
On the 25th? The executive minutes for the 25th? Right.
Yes.
Right. I believe she received them and made the change, but until we actually have them, we'll postpone approval of that to the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And set B, 4B, regular minutes for 3/25/2019.
I think you also have set 2,
Oh,
item
set
M.
2, item M.
That's the one that you did.
Thank you. Set 2.
I have no changes to that. I would recommend that those minutes be adopted. I don't know about my fellow board members if they have.
I didn't find anything. Did you find anything with set 2?
No, they look good to me.
Okay. How about you, Joe? You okay with set 2?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve set 2, item M of the executive minutes from 3/25/2019.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 4B, regular minutes, 3/25/2019.
The only addition is on page 2, right above where number 4, where it says adjournment. It should also read Director Campbell was not present. We talked about that in the regular minutes, but it should be reflected in the executive minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Karen.
I believe that you're speaking for the roll call, but he's not present.
It is. Number
It
2.
is.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
good.
good. Never mind. I motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Regular minutes for 3/25/2019 is approved. Special minutes for 3/29, March 29, 2019.
You just approved these ones. Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve those minutes.
29th special meeting we're working on right now. Did you have any changes to the 29th? You didn't have any changes? Yep, I'm good.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. We have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. the minutes for March 29, 2019 are approved. Oh, we need to get Gabe on one.
Dave's first.
I was trying to text him to see if he was ready, but he hasn't responded, so. Hey Gabe, this is Tony.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
You ready to do the financial report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody okay?
Okay, go ahead, Gabe.
All right. Well, good afternoon. You guys have the March 2014 packet. Starting off with our
Ask him to speak up.
month of March, you'll see that we received $68,284. There's a really bad echo.
Yeah, turn him down and then ask him to speak up.
Okay, you need to speak up louder.
You're still probably going to have to adjust the volume now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, adjust him down just a little bit more.
Okay, go ahead, Gabe.
Okay. So total income total income for the month was $68,284. That did put us over budget by about $9,000 for the month. Property tax revenue was over by $17,000 due to prior year levies, and non-tax revenue was under by $8,000. We're still investing in that ambulance revenue. We only received $15,000 compared to the budgeted $23,000. On the expense side, total expenses for the month were $80,424, which was $6,500 over our budget for the month. The biggest reason for that variance was in our professional managerial costs, professional fees, more specifically legal. Year to date, total income just under $800,000 at $799,000. We are over budget by $107,000 for the year. Where that is due to historical, quicker than historical collections on our property tax revenue, as well as prior year revenue, $76,000. Ambulance year to date is over budget by $36,000. So the combination of the two really helps kind of improve our revenues from a budget capital perspective. On the expense side, our total expenses were at $697,000, which is under budget by which is under budget by $7,299.
Which is,
Only other thing I kind of want to point out on the financial report is you'll see that our cash position we're at $497,000 at the end of March, which is actually now down $15,000 from where we were last year at this time. The biggest reason for that is the cash purchase on those cardiac monitors that we're getting from that reserves. So unless there's any other questions, that concludes my report.
Gabe, I wanted to clarify on the year-to-date expenses. You said it's $697,505.
Yeah.
What we have here shows $687,505 and said $7,299 over budget.
There was an additional $10,000 below the line and other areas expenses on page 7 of the report. And I added that in as I was talking.
Okay, I see. All right.
But it has to list it as grant purchase, so it's outside of the operating budget.
Right.
Gabe, this is Charlotte. Were you saying the year-to-date expenses were over budget or under? I couldn't understand the word you used.
Oh, yes. No, so year-to-date expenses is over budget by $7,200.
Okay. And I know that the problem with the billing for the ambulance, probably you and the chief can help educate me on how this is going to work. I know that you and the chief were going to go through January through March, April, maybe even through June. I don't know when our new contract starts with the billing company, but that the two of you were going to put together the billing for submission. Is that to the people who received the service that we're billing, or is it going through another company? I'm trying to visually understand
So the
that.
new ambulance billing company will, once they're set up and running with us, they'll do the back bill and all those bills to the insurance companies and all of that, just through the normal billing process.
And when are they online?
I don't have an update as of today, so I don't know. But we should be up and running pretty shortly here.
Any ideas so far how much we would be hoping? We know that they have to pay it when we bill it, but how much we would be recouping from the billing over the last few months?
No, I don't. I don't have access to the call volume. That's over that 3-month period. I mean, our average annual revenue, for the cash standpoint, is around $20,000. But obviously, we're still collecting that because the ambulance revenue is always coming in the arrears. So we may see a dip, but then it'll start coming in.
Okay.
So, for example, we had $15,000 of ambulance revenue this month that was all from before January 1. So.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Nice to know they'll do the back billing. I'm on page 3, Gabe, under fixed assets. Does that figure now include the land that the station in Dolan Springs sits on? That the chief, finally got clarification that is in our name. Is that reflected in your assets amount?
No, that is not. It has not had the time to review the historical fixed asset schedules from the previous audits to determine if that land value was already included on our balance sheet or not.
Okay.
And even in doing so, if we do determine that, Charlotte, it would not be an update that would occur until this year's audit because it actually be considered a prior period adjustment.
Okay.
For previously filed financials. Okay.
And I'm on page 9. I don't have that many today, Gabe, believe it or not. I'm on page 9. This is the monthly disbursement report. I noticed that we paid Mediclaim for January and February of 2019. Do we how do I say this? Since their contract ended in December, do we then pay them, what are we paying them in January and February? I guess that's my question.
We're paying them.
We still owe, Mediclaim is still entitled to charge collections on runs that they have billed. So as I mentioned, we are receiving revenue still for runs they have billed. So as those payments still come in on runs they have billed, we will still pay them. Anything they haven't billed, though, they will not be entitled to collecting that revenue.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. And I just have, and I think it's on our agenda, that it looks like we're paying Gabriel and Ashworth, and I'm still looking for the final accounting. So that, Gabe, believe it or not, that was it.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you.
By the way, did you guys get that invoice for them? Because I forwarded it to Karen.
I did not get it.
Gabe, I have one question. I just wanted to clarify this on the legal fees on page 7, the top item, legal fees. That's $33,700 over budget. That's over the $10,000 that was already budgeted for the year. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. So we spent $41,000 and we're $33,000 over budget.
Okay, thank you.
Year to date. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right here.
You don't have the complete.
Oh.
Because Charlotte said she was missing page 2.
Oh, right, correct. Yes. Thank
So
you.
following, Madam Chair, if I may, following the financial report is the credit card reconciliation statement. Director Kipper got a hold of Karen and said she was missing page 2 and copies of receipts. Page 2 was in all the other packets. I don't know how it got missed. It might have fed through the copier wrong or something. So we included page 2 and then copies of the receipts.
Thank you. Thank you.
And since we're on financial reports, this was sent today and it's also been forwarded in your email. Did you want a hard copy of the draft that he sent out this morning? Did you guys
No,
get
I
that?
haven't seen it yet.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the hard copy of that.
Thank you.
This has nothing to do with what we're doing today, but just is what we sent out this morning, or I received this morning.
We're not discussing this today.
No.
Okay. Does that, anybody else have any questions today?
I do not.
I'm good.
Questions for me?
You done, Charlotte?
I am.
Okay, I think that's all we need you for, Gabe.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Gabe.
Okay. So,
Wait a minute. Did you hang up?
Gabe, you still there? Oh, you missed it.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, he's there.
he's there.
7A business
17.
on the agenda. Discussion and possible action regarding update fiscal year 1920 LMR.
Okay, so that's the schedule.
And then item B.
There he is.
Okay, well, we do have two items.
So if you want to move those up, you can address them now.
Yeah, let's do that while he's on the line. Okay, Gabe, we're going to move on to business 7A, discussion of possible action regarding update on fiscal year 1920 LMRFD budget preparation.
All right, Madam Chair, I did put it over today, so I apologize for we did not get it ahead of time. But it is just our copy of the draft budget for your review. Nothing has really changed in there from our meeting a couple weeks ago. It did provide the line item budget as well as the 5-year projections. We are still waiting on confirmation on season dispatch costs, workers' comp, and we do have health insurance quotes in yet. I've not had a chance to review them or include them in the budget. So I just wanted to have that in there. If there's any follow-up from the board or any questions the board had from our budget workshop meeting, I think so.
I have one question, Gabe. On the 5-year projection,
Yeah.
it was my understanding at the budget workshop that we had like 5 years before we run out of money, and this is looking like 3 years.
Yeah, that was before we added in part-time office person.
Oh,
And so what I decided I will say is we do have a part-time office person program in there as well as full-time admin.
right.
And so we probably want to manipulate some of those numbers if the board does choose to go with somebody in the office part-time.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Gabe, this is Charlotte.
Hey, Charlotte.
I'm just seeing this for the first time. And I guess my question is, we are in the April meeting. Walk me through the timeline of getting the budget approved, putting it out there to the public for comment. If you could give me that timeline, please.
Yeah, so at this point, we'll spend the next couple of those workers' comp rates in. We'll be getting confirmation from Keenan on the dispatch charges. And then at that point, we'll also have the whatever rates from health insurance based on what the board decides to go with on health insurance programs in there. At the May board meeting, we'll ask for tentative adoption of the budget. We will then post on the district website and posting places for 20 days, and then come back into the June board meeting, hold public hearing on the budget, and then ask for final adoption of the budget at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that all for item 7A? We'll move on to 7B, discussion and possible action regarding pension policy and posting to LMRFD website. That's Gabe?
Yes, it is. So, with the email that I sent from Charlotte last month, this is follow-up to that. We kind of put actually what was presented by the cities and towns, got together and put together a template of policy posting. So that's what we have done, is we've taken that template, revised it some to more meet the needs of a fire district, and more specifically meet the needs of Lake Mohave. And so this, although it's not statutorily required for you to adopt today, it will be July 1 with all of those numbers that are in there. So if you guys would be so inclined to adopt that as the board policy regarding funding our unfunded liability within the SBRF.
Okay. Has everybody had a chance to review that? This pension funding policy?
Oh, yes.
Is it included in the packet?
Yes, I did.
Jill, did you have an opportunity to review the
The policies?
to be posted on the website?
Go ahead.
In full?
Is that in the budget?
It's in the packet. It's in your side.
Did you look at it?
Yeah.
Just have to find it again.
I think we should postpone voting on this until the next meeting, so Joe has an opportunity to review it.
Maybe.
Okay, so we'll table this to the May meeting,
Okay.
the May general meeting. So all the board members have a chance to review it. Okay?
Is it something that's time sensitive?
No, he said we could do it at the...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Do we need to make a motion for that?
I don't know.
Do it? Okay. Looks like that's all for, it's all for Gabe?
I have nothing.
Anybody else?
I do not. I'm good. Did you have anything else for Dave, Joe? Did you have anything else for Joe, or Dave?
No.
Go with Joe.
Okay, I think we're really done with you this time, Gabe.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's what I was saying, I don't see it in my packet either, so I think,
It's one skinny little page, it kind of gets stuck against the...
I know, I seen it already.
Yeah. Says public safety personnel retirements.
No, it was,
Mhm.
it was in front of
I know
the...
I saw it in my email packet, but I don't.
Okay, we're going to go back to reports now. 5B, Fire Chief Report.
Okay, Chief's Report, April 2019. AMR transports were 1. Chief after hours call-outs were 4. Highway 93 calls were 15. 3 of those were either canceled or not responded to. Transports were 29. Refusals were 7. DOA of 3. Refusals billed were 3. Service calls were 15. Fires were 3. False alarms 4, for a total of 65 calls. Days covered in Meadview originally were scheduled 13. We had 14 days covered to date. For the month of May, we have dropped off significantly. We have 6 days covered to date. This is due to people dropping off and not scheduling days. As most everybody knows, here in Meadview, there was the Crow's Nest restaurant burned on Easter Sunday. We did put out a press release, and I don't have the press release with me. The original call came out at approximately 12:19 a.m. First units arrived on scene within 20 minutes of the first call. The building was fully involved at that point, and the structure was a complete loss. We received several mutual aid units from Golden Valley, Northern Arizona Consolidated Fire District, and Kingman Fire Department also came and helped us with that. So our thoughts and everything goes out to everybody affected by that. We know they have 12 employees that lost their jobs, and we also have the owner of the business that lost her business. So Meetings and trainings, run review and pre-hospital as always. I attended the dispatch meeting, the meeting with ADEQ. I did have an airway lab this month, and that's pretty much it. I had nothing to report on district properties. I apologize that was left blank. It should say nothing to report. District vehicles, tender 438, the electronic control module or the ECM is being ordered. It's found to be the cause of our problems. Chief 401 vehicle is in for maintenance and a bad oil sending unit, and that should be hopefully back in service hopefully today. Projects in the works, we have our personal protective equipment and some other equipment from a wildland grant was received, and we will be putting that in service. Repair and service of our SCBA fill stations at all 3 stations are on the schedule. We've been working on this for quite a while. We were waiting on some parts. So those, as far as I know, those parts are now in, and we are on the schedule for that to be done as soon as possible. We already went over the other item as far as the administrative assistant having no plans to leave at this time. I do have one other thing that I would like to add into my chief's report, and I didn't print it off, and so I'm going to have to read it off on my computer. This is more on a personal note. So I would like to clear up a few rumors that have been circulating. Did you get that? Thank you, son. I'd like to clear up a few rumors that have been circulating. I'd like everybody to know that I did not willingly announce my retirement. It was a coerced move, and it was a necessary move to protect my pension, and at no time did I just decide that it was time to retire. It has been clear to see that board members and I have been at odds for quite some time, and this has been evident in agendas, meetings, and minutes. Recently, Mr. Terrell resigned, and he insinuated on Facebook that I am to blame for the out-of-control attorney fees. This is not true. The board votes and decides on what and how to take things to the attorney. This is well documented in agendas and minutes and motions. You can look at the agendas and see what items were approved by the board to go to the attorney and who or what they pertain to. One in particular, the administrative assistant position, which is an operational issue that the board has taken action on for almost a year and spent thousands of tax dollars on that. I have spoken about this being an operational item, and the board was given alternatives by administration regarding certain items, and they have chose otherwise. Based on his own actions, the resignations from other boards, Mr. Terrell knew full well that he was leaving, but decided to wait until the last minute to resign from the LMRFD 2 days before a special meeting, which had to be canceled. And also after a special printer was purchased to address his disability. He could have saved the taxpayers nearly $800 by giving us earlier notice. I have said multiple times that I feel I've been subject to a hostile work environment created by animosity and conflict with the board members overstepping and interfering or attempting to interfere in the operations of the district. This too is evident in items and minutes and agendas. I have filed complaints, and as they are my rights as an employee. Since doing so, I have come under more retaliation. I feel that there has been a coordinated effort, malfeasance, collusion, and conspiracy to remove me from office. This is clear by actions taken. The rumors that were spread before the last elections about removing me from office, which were denied, seem to be happening. There seems to be a behind-the-scenes effort to replace me with someone within the organization, which has started a firestorm of rumors and speculation. This has also resulted in the undermining of my authority and the very district itself, also causing morale and staffing issues in its wake. If you look at all the items put on the agenda seemingly to discredit me as the chief, the destruction of records, perjury, and etc., none have been true and no action was taken. But items did their damage as they were designed to do, which was to discredit me in the public eye. Contract negotiations have been on the table for over a year, and no agreement could be reached because I chose not to surrender my rights to a jury trial pending matters and regarding complaints. I did not defend myself in the best way possible due to the fact I was told to watch what I say and do because it will reflect on my evaluations. At my last evaluation, that rang true again, when I was given dismal reviews by certain board members. Shortly after forcing me into retirement, the board chair quits, and after taking the heat for his fellow board members. He knew full well he would be gone and he would not face any accountability for his actions. Director Ray Bauer has gone to social media to speak out, and she states that the district has weathered worse. My question is, so why are we weathering another storm? She has gone on about hiring in district, keeping money in town, and we are now looking for outside management agreement or consolidation to solve the problem that was created. As this board was told multiple times by more than one person, operational matters are not in the board's lane, yet they keep going into it. The district has been being run well and under budget in most areas under the direction of the current administration, and it seems like they are still not satisfied and chose to push me out. We are now looking to outsource all operations, which again goes against everything they've been saying about wanting to keep things in district. No problems have been solved, only made. Staffing is at an all-time low and will potentially decline even more. Personnel are no longer looking to sign up for shifts when they have no idea who they will be working for next month. I would like to thank all the people who have supported me over the last 3 years. And it is better time to serve you. Excuse me.
Shall we go to call the public?
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything else in the public that would like to speak?
Phyllis Aiken, Lakeside Drive,
Please come.
Lakeside Drive, Dolan. I'm here in hopes to request that we pull back Mike Koresh into the board. And that we can find our way back to retaining our chief. The cost and the damages that are being done cannot be replaced.
Anybody else?
Theodora Keppen, 28650 North Temple Drive. I had some questions for the chief about the Crow's Nest fire, but of course he's not here. So I would like to ask when he comes back my questions, because from the information I received from people that were there and present is different than the information that he gave. So I just would like some clarification of that.
Okay, we'll can address him when he returns. Anybody else?
Good afternoon. I'm Supervisor Jean Bishop. I'm your District 4 Supervisor, and I handed the board a summary of a memo that I've given the board already in July of last year, and it was a summary from the County Attorney's Office as to what the Board of Supervisors can and cannot do with the fire district. So what I gave you was just an excerpt from that former July memo that reminds the board that there are only specific things that the Board of Supervisors can get involved in with your fire district. And I just wanted to remind everybody what those were, and hopefully those will go into the minutes so that the public can see that, you know, the Board of Supervisors cannot take over this district. We cannot form your your boundary lines, and there's just very minimal things that we can do unless you become financially unable to proceed, or you're unable to hold meetings because you don't have a quorum. Things like that we can get involved in, but other than that, we respect you as your own separate entity and a taxing district. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Is there any way we can post this on the website? Could we post this on our website so that the public can read it?
Yeah, we'll see why not.
Okay. Did you get
You'll have to excuse me if anybody has an aversion to blood. I have a bloody nose, so I apologize.
Did you get a copy of this?
I do. I have one right here. We'll get that forwarded to Karen. And I'm going to turn this away from
We
you.
do have a member of the public that would like to ask you a question, Chief, if you are up for that.
I don't know if I can answer a question.
Depending on what it is.
Depending on what it is, we can sure try.
Yes, I'm Theodora, and it has to do with the Crow's Nest fire. And I was not present, so I have no personal information, but I did hear the time frame that the fire truck came to the fire is different than 20 minutes that you said.
Mm-hmm.
I heard almost double that.
I'm sure you did.
And that's number, and so my question is, who did the timing?
Our dispatch center.
The dispatch center?
Dispatch center. Dispatch times don't lie. I reviewed the dispatch times yesterday when I sent out the press release, because of all the postings on Facebook and everything that everybody was saying. There were people saying that we didn't even receive mutual aid, and we only asked for Kingdom Fire, and all of those were untrue. All of those posts were untrue, and I did, like I said, review the dispatch times from the time that the call was dispatched and the time that the first truck arrived.
And where did the truck come from?
It came from this station right here, and it was manned by a volunteer that lives here in Meadview.
So one person?
One person, yes.
Mm-hmm. And 20 minutes from?
Approximately 20 minutes from the time that the call was dispatched by our dispatch center. Mm-hmm. Now, that does not account from the time that the call was received to the 911 dispatch center, but they are very quick about getting those out in less than 1 minute.
My second question is the pump pressure, and I'm not technically really up to speed on any of this, but I assume that means how much water can come out of the pump. And was that particular fire engine up to code or whatever your standard is?
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a 2010 pumper tender. Cover has approximately 3,500 gallons of water and a 1,500 GPM pump.
Mm-hmm. And what was their final report? Were they able to, did they get there, did the 20 minutes give them time to save the building, or what was the final result?
No, the initial dispatch reports that we received that there was heavy smoke and flames coming from the kitchen area. And that was at the time of dispatch. So within that 10 or 15, 20-minute window, the entire building was eventually consumed.
So by the time that the engine got there, it was not able to save in quotes.
Well, that can go under great speculation, because without knowing what the phase of the fire is at the time, and not being there in person, you don't know if the fire had traveled the attic. That building had a very large common attic, and considering that the flames were coming through the roof, it was probably running through the attic. So nobody can speculate on whether or not, if an engine got there in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, if the building would have been salvageable or savable, because you don't know what the rate and spread of that fire was. You don't know if an interior attack would have been appropriate at the time, and considering that it was a kitchen fire at a restaurant, it's very dangerous. So I think that's truly up to speculation, and I think anybody that's trying to speculate that we could have saved the building I don't think it's pure speculation at this point. You don't know. I can't answer that question definitively one way or the other. If somebody was on scene of the fire in the kitchen when the fire started and called us immediately and we got there, we may have been able to put it out. But before that fire went through the roof of that building, that tells me right there that the fire was pretty extensive and pretty far advanced at the time of the very first 911 call.
So in your final report or whatever you do, your statement would just say that basically the fire was out of control by the time, I'm not using correct terminology, I understand that, but just layman's turning, that the fire was out of control and not possible for anything more to be done than was done.
Right. And I'll try to put it to you in the most simplest terms. You risk a lot to save a lot, you risk a little to save a little, and you risk nothing to save nothing. When we got there, there wasn't much to save, so we were not going to put people's lives in danger to go interior. It was not, from my understanding from the first reports of the people that were on scene even prior to the fire trucks getting in there when the first engine got there, that it was not a fire that could have been entered into safely. It was already fairly well advanced, and we did have roof collapse on the rear portion of the building above the kitchen and the bar area, and even if we had full crews with RIT teams and everybody on scene, they probably would not have done an interior attack.
And then one last question. So the volunteer person that was able to get in, get the fire truck going, was he someone that is known to people? I mean, how did he end up getting that call? Is he a name that you had?
Yes.
As a person that was capable of doing this?
Yes, he's been a volunteer with the district for, I believe, over 10 years.
Okay. Do you know how many of those volunteers you have?
In Meadview right now we have two. One of them did not answer the phone, and the other one that answered the phone responded in the truck.
I'm sorry, I thought that was my last question, but were there fire, I guess they're called suppressors, in Dolan Springs at the time of this fire in Meadview?
No. The day before and the day after, but not the day of.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
How many engines do we have here in Meadview?
Yeah, Dick, name it. No, sorry. Just what we...
Laurel Jarshaw, my address,
Address?
30141 Catalina Drive. I'm just wondering how many engines do we have here in town? I'm kind of new to the area.
You have two engines in the station here and one ambulance.
And one ambulance. Okay. I come from a small community in northern Minnesota, and we have a volunteer fire department there. And I know that coding, depending on how the fire department is coded, it affects your homeowner's insurance and all that back where I'm from. I don't know if it does it here, but...
It does, depending on who your insurance company is. They're getting away from the ISO ratings.
Okay.
The Lake Mohave Ranchos Fire District as a whole is at Class 8B as in boy. And if you need that information, it can be
I
taken
don't
from the
know if
office.
it's the same here as back there. Is it basic all over?
ISO is the Insurance Service Organization rating, and it used to be heavily used when getting insurance for your home. And if you had a poor ISO rating, your insurance rates would go through the roof. And if you had a good ISO rating, your insurance rates would come down. But as the years progress, a lot of insurance companies are actually getting away from that. And what we see is they'll call the office and they'll say, how far are you from a fire station? How far are you from a fire hydrant, etc. And they'll just base it on that. And some companies, they don't even ask, they just know. And depending on where you're at, if they know it's a rural area, you're not going to get a AAA rated policy. You're going to get a lesser policy. And then that's just been my experience. So just to throw out the disclaimer, I'm not an insurance agent, I'm not an insurance expert. This has just been my experience in the fire.
But it's based on how far you are from the fire department and what the coding is on the fire department also, correct? Like how
depending on the insurance company, yes.
Okay.
But yes,
okay.
That is true.
Okay, thank you. But we have 2 trucks and 1
You
ambulance.
have an engine, you have a pump, what's called a pumper tender, that's the big truck with 3,500 gallons, and then we have an ambulance.
Well,
Walt Kiffer, 7288 West 9th Street, Dolan Springs. If I understand the numbers correct, with 3,500 gallons of water and a 1,500 gallon per minute pump, you had about 2.5 minutes of water.
If you're flowing 1,500 gallons a minute, which
Right.
nobody can hold a hose flowing 1,500 gallons a minute.
So what's the typical flow rate then?
Pump pressure is usually between 110 and 125 psi for one person on a hose line, and then depending on the nozzle, it can go anywhere from
Right.
125 to 300 gallons a minute.
So
Which
about
considering the amount of flame and fire that was not enough to overcome
Right.
or to
not
change
enough
the-
to overcome the flame, and
not
you've got
enough
about
to
10
overcome the
minutes.
flames at all. No.
And then the second question, the 20-minute response time included time for you to get a hold of a volunteer and the volunteer to go from his house to the station, fire up the unit, and appear on scene?
It was approximately 20 minutes, and that it did include the time that I did call him,
And his time to get to the
and his
station.
time to get to the station, get the truck, and drive over.
So it's not as simple as the fire station's right here.
No, but fortunately, the volunteer lived very close by. I called him shortly after I received the dispatch information. I made one previous phone call to the other volunteer in the district, and when he didn't answer, I called him. He answered, and he was responding while I was making additional phone calls for additional support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ken Dougherty. It's Dougherty, and I live on 29605 Sandy Point Drive. That's not easy for one guy. I come from the fire department family, my dad, both my brothers. But so he was the first responder, and that's just 20 minutes from the time he got to the scene. But then he's playing captain, engineer, and fireman laying the line. How long do you think it would take one man like that to actually decide where he's going to break through a window, this and that, and actually get water in there from the time he shows up?
I didn't go into all that with him as far as what his initial attack was, but at that point it was basically, he pulled a short line, I believe it was 50 or 100 feet, and charged it, and basically his job was to just contain the fire to the building itself. So there was no, he wasn't trying to go in and attack the fire. It was basically a defensive attack, which is stand back, keep it from spreading to any other buildings. That building was already affected, it was already a loss. So at that point, with one, like you said, with one person in one truck, he can't just go in there and start charging in with the hose line and putting out fire. So
yeah. A couple other questions. Because I've seen a number of fires here, and I haven't seen one yet where it didn't burn basically to the ground. I'm curious, is it pretty much the same in Dolan? Pretty much everything, most structures end up being a total loss?
well, I think what you have to look at is the structure itself.
Yeah,
What is it? Is it a stick-built house?
right.
What's the fire load inside the house? What's the construction of the house? Out here, Dolan Springs, Golden Valley, Kingman, Butler, old mobile homes, older mobile homes,
Tinderboxes.
tinder boxes. Statistics state within 5 to 10 minutes the structure is fully involved. So
That's why a lot of stick-built-
unless you are the fire station and your fire station catches on fire, depending on the age of the mobile home, the fire load inside the mobile home, most of them are lost straight before the 911 call comes in.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, I'll just make this public. The owner of the business was receiving phone calls to her personal cell phone 5 minutes before 911 was called for the fire at the business.
In other
A
words,
full 5 minutes, she was receiving phone calls because I spoke to her and she was getting phone calls and wasn't understanding why she kept getting phone call after phone call. And we looked at the first phone call, and I'll say 4 minutes, excuse me, 4 minutes before our initial dispatch to 911. Why they were trying to call her instead of 911, I don't know. And I mean, I know people wanted to notify her, they know her, they like her, they respect her, but 911 first, not Facebook, not social media, not call a friend.
That is astounding, because I know that people, I talked to a woman who pretty much runs the motel, and, you know, it's surprising that all these people knew her phone number, but didn't. That's a lot of people knowing the phone number, and nobody calling 911. I guess everybody assumed, maybe everybody else assumed that somebody else had called 911. But
and it happens, but it was just a kind of a sticking point for me when I spoke to her that she was getting phone calls a full 4 minutes before we ever got our first 911 dispatch call. And I know our dispatch center does not lag. They call them PSAP times. They're PSAP times. They're an ISO 1 rated station, and dispatch center and their PSAP times are above normal, and they're above reproach. So it's nothing to do with, you know, a delay in the dispatch center.
What's the average response time in Dolan Springs compared to Midget?
About the same.
It all depends on where you're at. It all depends on where you're at. I mean, if you're across the street from the fire station, you're going to be close. If you're up on 23rd Street, you're going to, even if the guys are in the station, that's a 10 plus minute response straight out of the gate. And then if you have to travel up and down our wonderful dirt roads, you can add another 5 or 10 minutes on top of that.
Is the Dolan Springs station most of the time manned?
The Dolan Springs station is the main station. It's manned 24/7, 365.
Okay.
Two people.
2 people?
That's fire and medical. Okay. So that means if they are running a medical call and transporting patients in the hospital, the fire station is there.
Yeah. Is the medical guy also a firefighter?
They're all cross-trained.
Okay.
Everybody here is cross-trained.
So was this EMS guy out too? Is why there's only one person out there? Was this EMS guy?
No, the schedule was open that day.
Oh, okay.
There was no coverage that day. Like I said, coverage the day before, coverage the day after, but there was no coverage in Meadview on the day of the fire.
What about Dolan?
Oh yeah.
Were the guys out or were they?
No, they were in the station.
Oh, so they came out.
Yeah.
Were there any second responders after the meeting guy? Just out of curiosity.
Oh yeah.
So Dolan came up, but by then it was a salvage operation.
Yeah. Well, we had Dolan Springs. Scott brought up the tender. The guys brought up the engine from Dolan. We had another off-duty gentleman come in off-duty. He brought the ambulance up to the district, drove it over here, got the other engine from here. We had Golden Valley Fire with the water tender. We had Northern Arizona Consolidated Fire District with a water tender with a snorkel on it. And we had Kingman Fire with an engine and 4 personnel.
This place is rumors, right? And what I don't understand, and I know 3.5 years I'm finally figuring it all out, right? What exactly, how does it work? Okay, it's the fire district. I pay my taxes, and I know that there's some fire stuff on there, but who pays for this district? What's the percentage? Is it every property owner that pays into it? And if not, why? What's the decision process on who pays and who doesn't?
I have done the research on
That's
that. I can answer that
going
question.
off. We were answering questions regarding the Crow's Nest fire,
never mind.
and that's kind
You can put
of,
that
we want to answer your question, and we have the answer to your question.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
not on the agenda, and we were answering questions directly regarding the Crow's Nest fire.
Oh, I didn't hear that it's
So-
only Crow's Nest fire.
We start to violate open meeting laws if we just start doing open answering.
Okay, then
questions. But
how can somebody like me get these?
We'll put that information for the next meeting, so it will be on that agenda.
Or you could catch
Because
Ms.
that's
Ray Bauer
something-
after the meeting, and she
that's
can explain it all to you.
Well, I can explain
Or
it to
can
you
you
too.
explain it to him since it's been on our agenda probably 10 times already?
No, not this one.
Well, if there's a place online where it's all self-explanatory.
It's
I-
not self-explanatory. It's a
It's
very
very complicated.
convoluted, complicated subject when it comes to especially Meadview and who pays into the fire district and who does not. I will answer one question. The fire district is funded by property tax. Period, end of story. We don't get sales tax, we don't get it. And then the other thing that you'll see on your tax bill is FDAT, Fire District Assistance Tax, which is paid by every person in the state of Arizona. It all goes into one pool, and they divvy it up amongst all the fire districts.
I think he's out.
Yes, I am.
Yes, he is.
Are you receiving a lot of that money from the tax?
Yes.
I'm sorry, we're getting way off the subject, and way off the reservation.
I do understand.
I apologize that we can't.
I do understand the issues, though. I mean, I came from Southern California, like I said, everybody in my family, and it's like, if it got past 5 minutes in first response, people would go up in arms. But that's really easy to do when you have so many people compressed in a small area, and, you know, the run is a mile away. Makes life a lot easier. Okay, and there is no way online to, I mean, I'm pretty good at reading and trying to figure out just how all that works. Is there a government, a .org that does explain any of that?
Right behind you.
Oh. Thank you. And thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean.
Sir, did you have something you wanted to say?
Jean's got something else to say.
If I could just bring up one more thing. I wanted to thank whoever the person was that responded to the Crow's Nest fire and turned off the propane.
Oh.
Because whoever that person was is the one that saved the adjoining buildings from an explosion that could have caused even more damage. But I just want to remind everybody, this is a very large fire district with a low population and a low tax revenue. So, you know, it's not Los Angeles, it's not a city, and you get what you pay for.
About if you live 45 minutes from a stoplight,
right.
don't expect city services.
And so I wanted to put out just one final question to this board. You know, I'm getting a lot of flack on social media that this is totally the Board of Supervisors that caused this to happen. So is there anything I can do as your county supervisor to assist the fire department within legal boundaries and statutes and what I've already given to you per the county attorney's direction? Is there anything else I can do that I haven't done? Because I sure want to do it if there is.
I can't think of anything. You've always been very cooperative and helpful to the district and answered everybody's questions when we had questions for you. So
thank you.
I, for one, appreciate it.
Christine, is there anything that you think I should be doing?
I'm Christine Baker, Review Your Box 858. I have been recording these meetings. Some of the meeting videos are online. I've been writing about this for going on 4 years now. And what I really would like to know from you is how one does unconsolidate, because this will never work as long as me, you, and Dolan are in one district. We have no volunteers. People don't like each other. I love to see cooperation, sharing a chief, but we have two different districts.
You could ask the board to put that on
But
the next
that is a
agenda.
question for you. How does one unconsolidate? Because it's my understanding that it's not possible, and that does not sound right.
You'll have to contact your district board members. But they do have that information that I provided back in July on that meeting.
Oh, you did?
Yes. And you probably have a copy of that too, Christine.
Thank you.
We'll put that on the next agenda, Christine. We have actually addressed it, I believe, at the last meeting, but we've addressed it multiple times.
One more question. What is the video of the last meeting? I did not come to record it because I did not get a notice as I hoped, and I didn't know what was happening.
Oh, can I answer that?
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. The last 3 or 4 board meetings are on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel now, and it's the full name, Lake Mohave Ranchos Fire District. And all the last 3 or 4 meetings that have been recorded are uploaded and ready for viewing. There is a link on the website as well, yes, and I thank you very much for that.
I thought when I looked at the website, it was under construction again.
It hasn't been under construction for a little while.
I think that's
Even though the website states that it's under construction, the link is still on the website, and you can still address the link, or you can go directly to YouTube, type in Lake Mohave Ranchos Fire District, and it'll bring up not LMRFD, but the full name, and you will see all the board meetings that have been recently recorded and uploaded. And it does.
We don't need it on the agenda. If we discussed it at the last meeting, I'll watch it online.
Okay. And just as a note, because I don't have the software to compress the file size yet, it takes about 24 hours to upload a 4-hour long meeting. So I'm working on getting some software that that's supposedly free that'll compress the file size and get it uploaded faster. So just so everybody knows, it'll take a good 24 hours to get this meeting on YouTube.
Thank you.
Okay, we need to carry on here.
We have one more person.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Somebody else? Go ahead.
Hello, I'm Douglas Broughton, 245 West Mohave View. The questions may or may not be related directly to the fire, but I'm curious, how long does it take when I call 911 from my cell phone for that call to get rerouted to the local fire district, for them to be able to take action on it? I'm assuming it goes to a state central 911 service where it's then rerouted.
That is another kind of a convoluted and complicated answer to a question, because it all depends on who's your company's service,
right?
Where you're at when what cell tower pings your phone, and so that will dictate what agency. I've heard people from Meadview or in Dolan Springs calling 911 and actually getting a dispatch center in Las Vegas. I can tell you that Mohave County Sheriff's Department, Mohave County Emergency Management, and several other agencies are working to address those cellular phone issues because they want to be the ones that are getting the 911 calls. They don't want you calling 911 in Mohave County and getting sent to DPS dispatch and vice versa, which happens a lot. So I know it's not an easy answer to your question because there's so many factors, but I'm just saying from my experience and from attending meetings at Mohave County Emergency Management and how they're trying to address sending out text messages to a general population, let's say of a disaster or something like that. They've got the code red in emergency management. So when they're doing all these things, they're also trying to address these issues with the cellular phone companies and the people that own the cell towers and et cetera.
And phone numbers that are here or there, North Dakota and here part-time, all that.
It shouldn't matter where your phone number comes from. If you ping a tower, a cellular tower, they should be able to route the phone call appropriately, but it doesn't always happen. And we have a majority of your 911 calls that will go directly to Mohave County Sheriff because they are the central 911 center for all of Mohave County regardless. And then they will immediately, as soon as you say what your problem is, if you say I'm in Kingman and I have a fire, they will immediately switch you to their dispatch. It's a direct link. It doesn't take but a second.
Okay, I appreciate that. The other question I have is finding out about scheduling. I don't always go to my website or your website and check when the meetings are. I had programmed them into my phone, my calendar, and I was getting ready to drive down to Dolan Springs for a meeting and talk to somebody else and said, oh no, what's happening up here today? It got changed. Is there a way that people can sign up to the website to get an alert about changes? One text.
I was working on that. Do we have the
It costs
email?
money.
No, the
It
email
costs money?
address that I can just send it from the LMRFD at SitLink. I thought that was the issue.
But I'm saying to have a subscription on the website costs money.
Well, yeah,
That's an additional expense.
but we can have somebody that would notify them through an email subscription.
I thought you
If that
wanted,
would be-
that was something you.
Well, I thought I couldn't do that through the LMRFD because it would use up too much storage space, so I was gonna do it through LMRFD SitLink.
I thought that.
I need a password for LMRFD SitLink, I don't have any access to that.
I'll give it to you.
Okay,
So
so,
you have a good
Madam
IT
Chair?
person, you have an
Yes,
IT
go
person
ahead,
on
Karen.
staff?
I think the board motion was to approve you to send the agenda through your district email. email?
Yes.
Is it not to respond so that it didn't take up space?
I think the issue was that there was no way to prevent people responding to my sending those items out. And so they were going to put it through SITLINK because that is a totally separate, and there's no limit on the storage there. That was my understanding.
That was mine.
Okay.
If I may help you, on the front page of our website was the date and location of this meeting here. And the reason it changed, we had done a back-to-back in Dolan, and in all fairness, we then did the next 2 meetings here. That's why that changed. Ordinarily, we alternate, Meadview, Dolan, Meadview, Dolan. But if you go to the front page of the website, that don't usually have location date and time.
Like I said, he doesn't just go check it all the time. He's got it programmed in automatic.
I went off the calendar that was put out at the beginning of the year for the year's meetings, and that's what pops up on my phone, it says meeting.
Yeah.
And I was in town this time.
Good to see it.
So we'll be working on that subscription list that will be an email notification when things change, when there's special meetings, even for regular meetings, and a reminder for agendas and when things are happening, so you'll be aware of what's happening. Especially right now, because there's so many special meetings going on, that get the information out there in a timely manner where people can have access to it is not happening.
Right.
Unless you check the LMRFD website every day, you miss things. So.
And I'm pretty OCD, but not that. Thank you.
We're working on it. Thank you. Mike?
Mike Harris, 29570 Patterson Lane. Maybe I should ask Gabe, he made a statement that in 5 years we're going to be broke.
3 years now, it's down to 3 years.
Pardon?
3 years now.
3 years.
It was 5, but we have to put somebody in the administration office, so that takes it down to 3 years. Unless we make adjustments elsewhere.
Okay, so those figures have been already taken care of, and we're going to be broke in 3 years.
If we don't make some changes, that's what we're working on, is restructuring.
Okay.
Those are budget projections.
Projections, right.
Those are budget projections based on county figures, based on spending trends, et cetera, et cetera. There's no guarantee that it won't be next year. There's no guarantee that it won't be 20 years from now. So I don't think anybody should panic and jump on the bandwagon that we're going to be broke, because those are projections, and projections can change.
Okay. Last month, Chief Martin was here from Mohave Valley, I believe, and with his experience, and he mentioned the same thing about personal difference we've had. I've been on board, trivial personalities, whatever. Like I said, our chief has brought us some ashes to what I think we're doing very fine. What he's done, he's been very proactive. He's very conscious about managing the budget and everything like that. And I think to let this man go with all of his experience and expertise, we're making a big mistake. I thank Mrs. Aiken for her acknowledgement, but correct me if I'm right, I believe between you, Ray Bauer, and Eric, she got the next amount of votes?
I believe so,
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I would like to have her, if she would like to take that position, to support her. And if that didn't happen, I would gladly like to throw my name in. I enjoyed when I was on the board for, a year and a half or so, when he took over from Mr. Anthony. And so, like I said, I'm supporting her. If she would like to take a position, I think she should be asked to do that with the amount of votes she got. And I don't know, between Theodore and I don't know how many votes there were there as far as you and I.
Theodore
after that, so.
Sorry, what did you say?
She didn't run for the
Oh,
board.
you didn't think you did run for the board?
No, you ran for the board, and you lost.
Yeah, but she was next, so I sort of support her if she would like that position. If not, I would take somebody in the board. But like I say, I think if we let this gentleman go, we're making a great mistake to this district, And like I said, what it costs, and then even to, like I said, would you want to do, get into the government group or of all, I forget what way to do, contract somebody, I don't think we can save that much money. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve?
Christine Baker again, just for the record. It was really not so much the board that pushed the chief out, it was me. application. And I realized the chief also filed an ECOE complaint, in which he lied. And the letter from the ECOE, when they concluded the investigation, clearly states that, and you can all read that online. But the administrative assistant sued me in court. The chief decided to also sue me.
We did not sue you. We filed an order of protection against you and your constant harassment. And I will not stand for this.
And what was the
She is out of order. And she needs to be placed out of order.
Call to the public. She has
What
an
happened
opportunity
in
to
court?
speak.
You said.
An order of protection.
What happened in
That is not a lawsuit. And it was quashed because I am a public figure.
Excuse me, excuse me.
The administrative assistant is not a public figure, but the judge cited for you.
For me, okay, just
You did not push me out.
Excuse me. There you go. A member of the public has the right to complete her statement.
Excuse me altogether. I will not take it from her anymore. I'm done in 30 days. And if you think I'm going to stand here and take her crap, you're full of it.
Thank you.
You don't know what happened.
You may leave
In
the room
executive
if
session.
you're not happy with the
So don't take
conversations.
credit.
This pretty much shows that I was right. It was me.
That's me.
And I don't need to take credit for it, but I want to make sure that the board, that everybody knows it's not the board's fault. I have documented the chief's shortcomings, the mistakes he made, and it is, the proof is in the pudding. We have 2 volunteers in meeting.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Christine. We're going to quickly, we need to approve the financials.
And with Tony walking out again, now we can't answer questions, so.
Unless you have,
I had questions on this, but now he's walked out of the room again, the financial.
she had something on the,
I can try to answer for you if you like.
Okay.
on the,
Did we approve Dave's report? That's what we're trying to do. Now let's
but
do
we're going to
it.
do this first. She had a question.
No. I had a couple. When he comes back in, that's the Karen said she could probably answer. Oh.
Okay, go ahead.
Karen, on the Cunningham Incorporated, what was that for, you know, for $526?
So does the credit card charge?
Yes, because I don't see a receipt in here for that.
We received in there, I copied it off, but I did myself.
Well, I've looked at it 3 times, and I don't see one.
And it should probably be supposed to be in.
Well, I can tell you it's for vehicle maintenance, I can't tell you which one now.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
okay. And then, of course, the $825.98 was for that printer Tony was talking about?
Was it Staples?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
I thought that was supposed to be $300 for that printer.
There was, but you bought cartridges and everything that went with it.
Crying out loud. Can that be returned?
No. The cartridges might be able to, but the printer can't.
Why not?
Because it's been used and there's no reason to return it. You got a reason why it can be returned? It's been used and it can't be returned just because the person that we bought it for resigned from the board.
It depends on Staples' return policy once you get the product like that.
It's been over 90 days.
Oh, really?
Yes, or 30 days. 30 days. Because I've had stuff that I've had to return. If it's been over 30 days, you gotta, then it's the warranty and that's not a warranty issue.
Well, then we can at least return most of the cartridges.
Yeah, I think we might be able to. Karen, can you check to see if we can return any of those cartridges? Well, we're probably gonna use the things, so.
Well, but not that much.
Well, if there's a 30-day limit on the return and it's passed, it probably not.
Okay. Okay. Well, I was just wondering if that's what that was, because that's an awful lot of money for something that didn't need to be bought.
Yeah, that's what that is. It was paper, ink, and the printer, I believe.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
Okay, well, that was my 2 questions, so.
I don't have any more. Do you have any questions, Jill, on
Do you have
that?
any questions on those?
I'm going to move that we approve.
It was that printer for Eric so that he could be able to have bigger prints.
Okay, I understand now. Yeah.
Which could have been not bought if he would have stated that he wasn't
Okay,
sustained.
I'm going to move we approve the financials.
I make a motion that we approve the financial report.
See, now I can, I get my makeup. big name.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you approve the financials? Are you approving?
Through it?
Are you approving them?
Oh, yes.
Got an eye on that already?
That works.
You're good
Okay,
to say no.
so the next item is under 7 business, item C. Discussion and possible action regarding reimbursement for private investigator and attorney Bill Ventura contract with LMRFD Legal Counsel.
I think that's no action.
Yep.
That was a no action. Item 7D, discussion and possible action regarding LMRFD's legal counsel invoice regarding review of statement number 48344 and requested documents related to statement 48344. Dates of documents 11/14/15, 21/18.
Those documents are to be sent to the board.
Item 7E, discussion and possible action regarding review of legal counsel invoices, processing, and submission to LMRFD.
At our last meeting, we had talked to the attorney about we've not received a bill reflecting charges since December through now. And so we had talked to him about sending that information for those months and then to bill monthly, because it's one of the few vendors that is sending us a bill monthly. He said he would do that. We haven't yet received it, so that information is to be forthcoming. So what's important to keep in mind is we have spent $41,000 to date in legal expenses. And from December on, I think after the first of the year, there shouldn't be that much because the board voted that there be no contact with the attorney unless it went through the chair, except for the AA when setting up the meeting and agendas, etc. So that there was a gatekeeper, so to speak, that would have to be the one authorizing the contact with the attorney and the consequent cost of that. So hopefully January on we won't see big bills, but hopefully, so we're expecting that information to be sent.
We're just waiting for, there's no action, just waiting
No
for
action.
information. Item 7F, discussion possible action regarding payroll discrepancy matter, update and clarification regarding LMRFD, speaking to the general public about the matters related to the LMRFD. We asked for legal guidance on how to proceed with this. We've had some public discussion about this. It's been on the books for a year now. We had an employee who took advantage of the fire district and defrauded the district for a considerable sum. The funds were recovered, as well as the attorney fees for...
Not all the attorneys.
Not all the attorney fees?
Well, the part that initially started it, yes, but because it dragged on with the board, it cost us more legal fees.
So the initial attorney's work was covered, but subsequent discussions with the attorney have not been covered. Okay, so we have no way of figuring out how much that is. So worked in, it's a month, throughout a year, worked in a monthly discussion with the attorney, trying to update and figure out what was going on with it. It took a year to get the documentation to the attorney, or to the county, the prosecuting attorney, so that he could do something with it. And what came of that was 12 charges, felony charges, 1 fraudulent schemes and artifices. There's 1 charge for theft. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 charges for forgery. And this is on April 8th was, the charge was finally, the complaint was filed and a summons issued. And we've learned that the person has since left the state, and there will not be extradition to bring him back. there'll be a bench warrant issued. So if he gets within 100 miles of the state, he will be arrested, but other than that, we have no...
Well, that's only if he doesn't comply to the church.
That's true, if he doesn't comply. We're assuming he's out of state, he's gone, he's not coming back, but there is the possibility he will comply to the summons and come back and face the charges.
A name, how we cannot recognize who it is and call 911 if you don't know who it is?
It's a public record, it's on the Kingman Justice website.
We are instructed, we really should.
Or you're not allowed to give the name?
Yeah, no, he said he could.
I think he said we could give the name out, but we should be careful about how we go about things. So just to be on the safe side and not to put the district in any, I'll give you the case number. You can go search it
Okay, just say it.
online.
No, she's not, okay. Yeah, never mind.
It's J-0801-FR-2019-00380.
Thank you.
And that will give anybody all the information they want.
Well, I doubt you'll ever see him, so.
Probably not. So that's all there is to do with that. We have no action. That's just information. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that? Okay, item 7G. Discussion of possible action regarding prior LMRFD board bylaws relating to appointment of board member regarding section 1.4 D, E, and G regarding draft set of bylaws, section relating to appointment of board members. We learned through legal counsel that we are still operating under our original bylaws established for LMRFD in 1994, and that subsequent rules and procedures and bylaws that have not been approved by the board yet are not effective against those original bylaws. So the bylaws we will be following relative to the appointment of a board member will be 1.4 of the original organizational bylaws of the LMRFD, and that is item G. Reads that the resignation or announcement will be accepted during the meeting it is presented, which we did.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, should we start with D and explain and get to G? D, E, and G.
Okay, we'll back up. Item D is in the event a member resigns or leaves the board, the remaining board will appoint a replacement by majority vote of all members to fulfill that chair's term. They're calling it a chair's term. It's not meaning like the chair. It's just a seat chair, okay? E, the public will be informed of an available seat by contacting the local newspaper person for an article, not a classified ad. I think, Karen, you've done that, haven't you?
Yeah, she said she put it
In the mind. Okay. Resumes will be accepted and reviewed in executive session with the votes being cast in public session. So then, item G is the resignation or announcement will be accepted during the meeting it is presented. And that happened to be at a special meeting for us, which would have been normally this one, but it was presented at the April 11th meeting. So that kind of throws everything into a different time frame for us. Nominations will be made during the following meeting, which would be this meeting. So we'll be doing nominations at this meeting for this board seat that's missing. The nominations will be considered during the month after they are made, and that would be in May, and voted on during the following meeting, so that'll be June. That gives at least 60 days to consider the nominations for the chair.
But we don't have to go the full 60 days.
It has to be at least 60 days, but it doesn't have to be. It has to be at least 60 days. But yeah, he said, our legal counsel said that the board can ignore their own bylaws and do things differently, but it doesn't recommend that.
Well, we haven't done it in the past for the last 3, so.
The last one did.
Well, that's only because there was confusion going on. It wasn't intentional.
Right. So let's follow the rules and establish a new precedent.
So that's only 90 days before we can have anybody in.
It would be the June meeting.
It's still about 90 days.
A little less, but yeah. Okay, so we'll be taking nominations today. But that's further down.
Yeah.
Yes. That's just explaining why we'll be doing it today. So then we go to business item 7H, discussion and possible action regarding the exact number of employees calculated for ADA matter. Director Kipfer?
The attorney will send that information to the board. We said he would send it before, haven't received it, reminded him again today, so no action.
7I, discussion and possible action regarding personnel matter. Chief DeMaio regarding annual evaluations process and review of evaluations. Director Hicks?
Yeah, I just only have one thing to say on this because I didn't get to discuss the other parts of the bill. But I feel that Tony should be able to appeal his evaluations due to, I feel that the whole process was a setup due to that Eric knew he was leaving and he wanted to make sure the evaluations were done. Per our vote in February of last year, it was supposed to be done on his anniversary date, which is April, which should be this meeting. So his review was technically done 2.5 months ahead of time. So until we have our special meeting and I can get some answers from Bill, that's my opinion on the whole situation.
If I might add, the board agreed to have the evaluations done at the time that we did them.
Well, that's because I didn't realize that he was pulling it 2 months ahead of time until after I reviewed some minutes.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay. So,
Phyllis had a question.
Oh, take questions as we go? I guess we can. If we do.
We've done it before.
Yeah. Go ahead, Phyllis.
In regards to that,
Would you please, thank you.
Phyllis Aiken, Lakeside Drive, Dolan. In regards to that question, who did the evaluations? I mean, in regards to, you have 2 new board members that didn't have access to previous evaluations. So in turn, I have to question about the vote on that. If I had been voted on there, I would not have had a say on his staying or not. That's just my statement.
Got the end of the process. Review of evaluations.
Oh, I see what you're saying. If the question was, how many people voted? 4 members voted.
4 or 5?
5. I'm sorry.
5, okay.
5.
And 2, which were new, that had no background or previous evaluations, do they have the ability to vote?
You have full access to all the past information. You can inform yourself.
You do?
iVisitor.com. Watch the videos. It's all there.
No.
We answered the question. Let's keep going. It's good.
And I would like to add that I did offer to recuse myself, if that would have appeased anybody and everybody on the board. But if one person who's less informed than I am is going to continue, I went ahead and went along as well. And ours basically washed. We pretty much washed each other out, so it would have made no difference in the end.
It wouldn't have?
It wouldn't have. Nope. Seriously. I can't tell you what the numbers were, but they were washed.
Let's move on.
Oh, thanks. Oh, God, I thought I was being attacked. Okay. Moving on.
Should be fitness for doing medical evaluation.
Yes, we're going to, just because we're picky about the verbal, I brought this up previously, but this item 7J should be discussion and possible action regarding administrative assistant referral for fitness for duty evaluation, not a medical evaluation. It is fitness for duty. And board involvement with that referral. That's
The chief has the authority to make the referral. He has
Yeah, that's where we were to start with. Okay, so that's the chief has that authority. There's no action on that. And the same goes with the second one. We didn't get expenses associated with it. We don't know that. So we have not received yet what expenses.
The chief reported, correct me if I'm wrong, that was going to run anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 if there was a room needed for overnight. There was a local motel hotel that had a discount rate.
Right.
I had questions on this one, because like I said, I wasn't at this special meeting. This part couldn't be done in executive.
On K?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
One question I have is, which requires Tony to be in here to help answer this, but let's see. The first question is, why are we spending this money when we are over in our legal fees, and this may bring a legal issue and it's taxpayers' money, not the board's money? Would you spend this money if it came directly out of your pocket? Probably not. But you'll still spend taxpayers' money to get us involved in something that may end up going into legal battle and go beyond this board's and waste more money of the district. But I feel that with us keep pushing this issue, it's going to turn into a big legal battle, just like the one that just happened down in I think Glendale, where the lady just won $3.4 million because she sued them for not providing her area to do breast milk pumping for her child. I see this going in that same direction. It's not our job to manage the staff, it's the chief's.
Director Cass, if you remember, the attorney answered that for us today. And to protect the district, this is a step we need to take. So we are taking that step.
Okay,
Because there has been a claim.
So
okay.
that's already
On the financial part, we need to also include, because I know you guys voted to pay for her, I guess for her work time or travel time and her food and hotel, but there's going to be other expenses, and that's where Tony needed to include it, inform you of what those other expenses were, to include that as part of the voting on what's going to be covered on her going down there.
Oh, that's the other expenses.
Yes, because it's not just, oh good, he walked in just in time. Because there's going to be other fees that's going to include in that, just besides the doctor and the hospital and that part of the hotel and stuff. So we're discussing the extra expenses it's going to take to send her fit for duty.
Okay, what would you like to know?
What else are the additional expenses it's going to require for?
We're going to have to get her a room for the night. Her husband is going to have to take the day off work to drive her with their child, so it's going to require us reimbursing Karen for not only her hourly rate, but also her husband's labor, whatever he would make for the day, having to take the day off for him to drive her down there.
And we don't know what his fees are, right?
I don't know what his salary is, not off the top of my head.
So we'll need to get that, so we'll know how much more to add into the.
Yes.
So if that's part of the cost for us as a board, we directed this occur, and as our attorney informed us again today, this is something that we must do to protect the district.
Okay, well, the thing is we need to do a new motion to include those extra fees, because from what I got from the minutes, that those fees weren't included. It was just the work time, travel time, food, and hotel. There's additional fees now that's going to have to be covered.
So the only additional fee I'm hearing is the cost, the per diem cost for her husband to drive her down.
And his wages.
Well, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Should we discuss that with the attorney to see if that's
Yes.
part of it?
Let's put that on the agenda.
If that needs to be part of the,
Those were my additional
part of what we're
questions.
responsible for.
is for evaluation.
Fitness for duty.
Fit for duty.
Okay. Alrighty.
That was my last question.
Okay, we're moving on to item 7, L. Discussion of possible action regarding LMRFD bylaws, regarding draft bylaws. I just did that. Correspondence communication rule. Okay, I'm sorry. Regarding draft social media, correspondence communication rule, and draft appointment of board member are in 5 included within. And M, I'd like to move that items L and M, being as how they are similar, and they are bylaw and policy related. We can't vote on those without a full board, so I move that we table those till we have a full board.
Okay. So table.
Does that take a motion? Or just do that?
We can just table that. That was L and M?
L and M, yeah. And I would like to do the same with O. Table so we have a full board.
We got that then.
Pardon?
Oh, never mind.
I'm sorry. Can't, because we can't.
So N and O.
L, M, and O.
So now we're down.
Is N?
Appointment of board, so we're not going to appoint, but we're going to
I'll take the nomination.
do nominations today.
So we are with N.
So that would, I think that would still apply under appointment, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're at N then.
So it's just L, M, and O.
Can you ask Karen if we've received anything from the ad about the board vacancy?
Oh, Sharon, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Have we received any response from the ad for the board vacancy? Do you know?
I don't have any.
I don't know. I probably can't ask her to do that. Chief, would you mind asking Karen if she could post that in a real visible location on the front page of our website? It's kind of in an obscure little spot on the, down the bottom of that page. I don't think anybody even sees it.
Okay.
About the board,
Get that done.
the board position being open.
Do we have anybody in the audience?
Are we going to go to N then?
I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, let's, okay, we're going to do N. Discussion and possible action regarding the appointment of LMRFD board member. Well, this is going to be, we're taking nominations at this point. Okay, so we're taking nominations for board member. And we already have Phyllis and Mike. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Theodora Copeland if she would accept, with the board bearing in mind that her fire district status was not clarified by the board's attorney until after the deadline for running for office, so she had no opportunity to run for the position.
Thank you, Walt.
Yeah, that's where she accepts.
Theodora, do you accept that nomination?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Any more nominations?
I mean, I'm Walter.
Okay, I think that's all we have for now. Thank you. Item P, discussion of possible action regarding LMRFD interim fire chief hiring process and possible update regarding IGA with Golden Valley Fire District. I would like to table that until our May 1 meeting, which is specifically for that purpose. Item 7Q, discussion of possible action regarding volunteer application, overview, revisions, and posting to LMRFD website. Karen is currently working on this, I know, and she's been in communication about exactly how we want to format it. So we don't have anything to report at this time, but we'll continue. What I would like to see done is a simpler application for things that are not related to fire EMS service, so that people who might want to be able to show up and clean up after the fire, clean the hoses and wash the trucks and whatever, would be able to do that with a simple application, not a six-page application requiring multiple certificates and what have you. So we're going to simplify that volunteer process. And in that process, I would like to begin pursuing a robust and vigorous volunteer recruitment training program and focus it here in Meadview so that we don't have this kind of situation. And that's where I'm hoping some of the funds that we're freeing up by restructuring administration will allow for some of that to go towards a volunteer program. It's obvious, and we hear this from the chiefs everywhere, that funds are shrinking throughout the districts. All the districts are having the same problem: less money, more expenses. It's not going to get any better, and our own projections is like 3 years, and we're going to be out of money. We'll have to start dipping into our line of credit. It's not going to go 20 years, I'm pretty sure. He said it could fluctuate a bit depending on tax revenue, ambulance revenue, what have you, up and down a little bit, but that's not going to be, we're not, unless suddenly we become $1 million district, $1 billion district, there's not going to be a lot of income from tax revenue. So we have to take care of ourselves. And Meadview is the best place, as far as I'm concerned, to start it. You have the biggest need here, number one. And number two, you have the most potential for volunteers. You have a real community-oriented volunteer-type community here. So this would be the place to start it, and we need... Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking for this, to fine-tune the volunteer applications and the outreach on the website to start letting people know that, yeah, we're open to volunteerism. I know it's been difficult in the past because there's so many restrictions, there's so much red tape anymore to having volunteers for anything that it's just a major headache. But we have to overcome that somehow or other, because that's our only hope going forward. We cannot afford more personnel. That's just how it is. The money's not there to put more personnel on. No matter how much we cut, we can't cut it enough that we can put another person up here in Meadview. And you need 2 people. You can't do anything without 2 people. So that's where I'm going with this, and that's why I would like the volunteer application updated on the website so that we can start encouraging people to volunteer.
Phyllis?
Say it loud.
Lakeside, Dolan. In regards to that, who are you going to have here to supervise the volunteers?
Well, that's what we have paid personnel for, theoretically.
Yeah, but you're going to utilize funds that you're running out of to do that with.
Well, that's why we're trying to cut some expenses in other areas.
But you're doing it from the top, where you need your administrative assistant and you need your chief to ensure these things are taken care of.
There are ways to cover those without the expenses that we're experiencing right now.
So are you stating that you're going to get into operational matters and the day-to-day operations to restructure the fire district and run a volunteer program from the board down? Because that's exactly what it sounded like you said.
We used to do
Because you said you wanted to restructure the administration and start a volunteer program.
Okay. Okay, we're going to...
Which is an operational matters.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead on this one.
This is for Tony or Karen. What kind of policies do we have to cover a volunteer? Like workman's comp, that kind of thing?
Well, with any volunteer we bring on, regardless of what their status is and regardless of what they're going to be doing for the district, they will have to be added onto our workman's comp policy, which could increase the cost of workman's comp insurance. With what Ms. Raybauer has discussed that she wants to do, not only with a robust program, we would have to have robust policies and procedures and standard operating procedures in place to protect not only the fire district, but the volunteers that are coming in, because someone as simple as maybe they're not physically able enough to fight a fire or do something else, but you have them out washing hose and now they slip and fall on the concrete, and you've just paid for their the rest of their life. So
You have to do a background check too?
every person,
Right.
regardless of being a volunteer or a paid personnel, would have to go through a background check, fingerprint process, and a drug screen.
And what does that normally cost on average?
Background checks only run us about $25 per person. Drug screens are about $150. What did I say? Background check, drug screen, what else?
Fingerprints.
Fingerprints. Oh, well, the fingerprints and the background check are the same thing. I'm sorry. That runs about $25 per person. And then workman's comp, I have no idea what the additional cost would be on the workman's comp side.
Okay, is that all? All right, moving on. Item 7R, discussion possible action regarding retirement party for Chief DeMaio. And I'm proposing Saturday, May 18th. My May is filling up really fast, my calendar. If that works for anybody, everybody?
I will respectfully decline.
Well, how can we have a retirement party if you're not there?
Move on.
Okay. Okay, item 7S. Discussion and possible action regarding status of records retention update. We were going to receive a report from the chief on what direction you received from the Library of Archives as to how to proceed with destruction of permanent records.
Well, we were going to answer, and I don't see the email. Karen, was the email included in the packets? No?
We didn't get
I'm
it.
sorry, what did you say?
You wanted to know if the email from
From the records retention?
the record.
I don't think it was in the packet.
Can you read the email?
Oh, let me, give me a minute to find it. Do you want to move to another item?
Okay, we'll move on to item T, discussion and possible action regarding review of Gabriel Ashworth invoices and payments.
Karen, did you forward that invoice to the board that I sent you from Gabriel and Ashworth?
I never got it.
Oh, I sent it that same day I talked to you.
Yeah, I sent you a message back, and I didn't get it, so.
I didn't get that one, so, okay. I will try it again.
Okay.
So this is no action.
Yeah, because you'll want to sit next month, hopefully we can get it out there. Get on the agenda.
Table T. Item T. Okay, item U, discussion and possible action regarding update on information regarding COBRA benefits through LMRFD. That's you, Karen?
Yeah, so I'll speak to this and then I'll look for the other item.
Okay, thank you.
So this is just an update for Director Kiefer and the public. Currently, the district does not offer a COBRA plan for their insurance carrier. We're not obligated to. We're not required to by law, since we're a group of under 20 employees. If that ever changes, then we revisit that item.
Okay,
Thank you, Karen.
thank you. Item 7B, discussion and possible action regarding ARS 48805, Section A, 1, 2, and 3, regarding board member powers and duties, regarding expenses associated with replacement of current fire chief. That's Karen also, I guess. Administration.
No, that's not me. That was a call to the public.
That was one of somebody's question. Oh,
Oh, was
Scott's.
That was last
Oh,
week.
okay. Okay, did you want to speak to that?
Scott Aiken, Nolan Springs. I just want to understand, you're saying you're cutting costs by trying to replace the chief with something cheaper? Is that what I'm
Basically, yes.
hearing? And you're speculating that you're gonna get somebody cheaper, and like you were saying, start up this volunteer program with the money saved. Aren't you kind of counting chickens before they hatch? I mean, what does it cost the district for chief to retire? I mean, when I retired, they had to pay me all my back sick leave, vacation, and everything. It was over $50,000 extra.
They don't let us accumulate that anymore.
Well,
My contract states that you'll pay me for any unused sick and vacation.
But it doesn't accumulate to that.
so is that a cost savings by having the chief retire? And it sounds like that's a huge expense. I don't see where you're saving any money.
Well, I can, maybe, all the financials are posted online. Well, no, they're not anymore, are they?
Should be.
I
We're posting what was required by the board to post.
This Thursday, the board has directed Chair Ray Bauer to meet with Golden Valley Fire Department, and their meeting is this Thursday. So she will be talking with them about the possibility of entering into an intergovernmental agreement to purchase services for chief. And as a result of that, there is a question of whether or not we could even attract anyone out here with the salary, et cetera, et cetera. When you're contracting for services, you're eliminating the benefits that would go with a full-time position, which is over $30,000. So that's where we're at. We have no information beyond that. She's attending that meeting. The board is meeting May 1st to talk about what she learned. They appear to be receptive, but we still will have to determine that. So we don't have all the specific answers, Scott, but I think that's kind of the next step that we're taking.
Well, shouldn't you actually found out this information beforehand, before you retire somebody, and you end up spending more money? I mean, shouldn't you have this information already in hand before you took this action?
You can't go looking for that information, no.
Well, you can contact other fire districts.
What you have.
You could have gathered that information beforehand before you took a drastic action like this. It just makes no sense.
I think we'll have more information and report to you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, come to the May 1st meeting, we'll have some information there. That'll be, that's up here too, isn't it?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock here.
It's going to be here in maybe at 3.
Item W, discussion and possible action regarding LMRFD Station 42 update.
I believe this is regarding trying to have a sheriff's deputy substation.
Right.
I did talk to Sergeant Brooks regarding sheriff's deputy substation, and he floated the idea of maybe trying to do something with a, trying to think of the proper term, basically having a deputy live at the station, resident deputy. We discussed that the property would need some repair, and then there is an issue of we need to look up property ownership and make sure that it's not state land property, et cetera, et cetera. So after that discussion, I need to write a letter directly to the sheriff and kind of float this plan to him. But they are in the same boat that we are. They have no money, they have no expenses, so unless it's a mutually beneficial plan, something out of our pocket, something out of their pocket, coming together, meeting in the middle. But he said it's ultimately up to the sheriff.
So if it was state land, would that be the same as BLM? Is that going to interfere somehow?
State land and BLM could interfere because we're not allowed to make money off that land. So
But you're
therefore, we
allowed
could not
land.
charge rent.
No,
So
no.
it would be an exchange of services, something that doesn't require an exchange of money. I've seen it happen before, where it's just an exchange of services.
It is BLM land.
They do not get, BLM doesn't get involved unless you're making money. There are stipulations in the BLM contracts and the BLM lease agreements that you are not allowed to make money off that property. So we couldn't rent it and make money off of it. We can't do anything to make money.
We'll just have a deputy there if he was.
Right, and he did bring up the point, they already have a substation at the school. So the substation idea is kind of, they have access to the school when they need
So if
need
we
it.
used it for residential sheriff's housing, then if they paid like all the utilities, and then it wouldn't be really making money.
His idea, right, it would be just a complete wash of services, as long as nobody's benefiting from it. It's just a complete wash of services. But the idea that Sergeant Brooks had was the lure of a deputy that would live in the district. If the sheriff's department could make that rent free for the deputy.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So, and I still have yet to draft the official letter to the sheriff. We'll get that done.
So the chief is working on that. Okay, item X, discussion, possible action regarding LMRFD Station 43, information regarding future expectancy of coverage. That was a question at the last meeting.
I think that was a question brought up by Michael Karish at the last meeting. And as I stated, we are finding more and more, it's getting more and more difficult to find coverage due to the district, and people are unsure of what direction the district is going in and who's going to be running the district next week or next month. So I am having difficulty finding coverage. As I said in my report, there's only 6 days covered in the Meadview station for the month of May, and I am currently struggling with keeping the Dolan Springs station covered 24/7. I have actually 2 days in May where I'm still trying to find coverage at Station 41. So yes, it's getting harder and harder to find coverage until things straighten out or settle down, or we know exactly where we're going. And we've also lost, not just to say that that's the only reason. People have gotten jobs, people have gotten promotions, and people have moved shifts. So we've lost a couple of people there, but we were still holding on and able to cover it. It is getting more and more difficult.
Okay, anything else?
Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yes, sir, thank you, Chief.
Future agenda items.
Okay, so we have.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you need to go back to the other item.
Oh, yes, thank you, thank you. That was, the
Records, it's S.
If you had more
yes, okay.
volunteers, could you
Status of records retention.
support the station a little bit more?
Okay, go ahead, Karen.
Okay, the chief had directed me to reach out to the state archives regarding a specific question about destruction of records and if any must be destroyed. The response that I received back was, we don't tell people that they have to destroy anything. We provide a minimum retention period. The documents need to be kept. If you choose to keep your documents longer than the retention period, then that is your decision.
I believe the issue was permanent records that were destroyed but were not included on a destruction schedule or report to the archives.
And what permanent records are you referring to?
It was policies and procedures, I believe. I had that on last month.
And I explained that the policies and procedures, we retain an electronic copy of that record, and we still have an electronic copy of that record, and in the state archives you can retain an electronic copy that was just a photocopy of the policy and procedure manual.
That doesn't apply though if it's...
And it's an operational matter and it has nothing to do with the fiscal or fiduciary responsibility of the board or the district.
But it actually does, because the board is responsible. If permanent records are destroyed, the board is responsible.
And it was not done for malfeasance, it was not done to cover anything up or do anything in dishonesty, and like I said, the Records Retention Board would give us a pass on that, and like I said, we retain an electronic copy of that policy and procedure manual. That does not,
Electronic copy doesn't suffice.
we're not required to have a physical copy. It's an outdated, antiquated
when
policy.
When they are born physical, like the old ones, like those policy and procedures, they are. We don't have, they can't be kept in electronic when they're born physical. If they're born electronic, they can be retained physical electronic.
Well, now we're getting into a whole bunch of legal matters that I don't think either one of
Well,
us
I'm
are
not sure
qualified
all
to
of
answer
them,
that question.
I'm not sure all of them that were in the physical were actually scanned in and saved electronically. That's what concerns
And I will
me.
stand by that the state archives would probably agree that if we have a copy of that record, then we have a copy of that record and it's available.
I'm just not sure it's all.
And now we have 3 photocopies in my office of that policy book, physical, photocopied, black and white copies in my office.
Alrighty then, moving on.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Karen?
When you get to the date for the next meeting, I do have your response back from legal on an available day and time.
May 1st.
On the May 1st meeting up here? Oh, okay. And what is that?
For May 29th at 1 o'clock, and probably move regular session to 2:30 or 3 o'clock.
Wait, 29th?
What date
She's
are we
talking about our
talking?
next regular meeting.
Oh, next regular meeting. Okay.
Say that again.
So he can't even get us earlier than our normal meeting?
Your normal meeting.
That's pretty much only available day and time.
May 29th. Nothing on May 1st. Well, we don't have to have the attorney to discuss what I pick up over there.
Well, yeah, we needed him for my table stuff.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my.
I can ask him about that, but for the regular meeting for executive session, this was his available day and time.
Okay, that was May 29th. What was the time again?
At 1 o'clock?
Okay.
The attorneys available?
May 20, that's a Wednesday.
There's a holiday there, Deb, on Monday.
Oh.
Yeah, your regular board meeting falls on Memorial Day weekend.
So if the attorney is available at 1 o'clock on the 29th, then the regular session would have to be moved back.
2:30.
Like 2:30 or 3 o'clock?
Let's say 2:30.
2:30. Okay.
Is that one guy still here that was questioning meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just want to let him know.
So now you know the next meeting, May 29th.
2:30 for regular session,
And
Just for that one.
And that would be in Dolan, correct?
unless it changes.
That should be in Nolan,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that should be done.
Front page of the website.
2:30?
And then we're doing
Is
executive.
that correct? 2:30 for the regular start time for the regular meeting? 2:30, yes. 2:30, yes.
So are they saying executive
In Dolan.
session at 1:30?
1 o'clock.
For the general public, 2:30.
2:30 for the general public. I will get with
Ours will be at 1 o'clock.
Yes.
I will get with the Chamber of Commerce, since we have a change in the meeting date, to make sure that they're available to accommodate, and if not, I will let the board know.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any more items for the next agenda?
I think we have the invoice from Gabriel and Ashworth. Hopefully we'll have that then. I don't know if this one goes on May 1 or if it goes on the 29th, the possible interim IGA.
That would be May 1.
May 1.
Deal with it or
Right.
delete it, yeah.
And I have written down that we need the additional expense of the referral for fitness to duty. Is that May 29?
If it's required, if it's, I'm not understanding.
We're going to ask the attorney.
Unless
Remember,
you're
we're going to ask the attorney if that's a cost.
29th,
Oh, that's right.
In Dolan.
indeed.
Okay. Anything else?
And we got the stuff we're tabling, we were putting on to the May 1st meeting, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Executive Are we meeting here or in Dolan Springs on the first?
Here.
This may be, okay. And that's at 3 o'clock.
First is a special. Special.
May 1st, if there's still, Madam Chair, a special meeting is May 1st.
May 1st at 3
Here.
o'clock here.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. And we'll be discussing what we learned at the Golden Valley
Oh, okay.
Fire District, whether they're going to serve as management services for us or not.
Thank you.
So that's a public meeting then?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just G&H that I was going to bring on the May 1st meeting.
What was that?
G&H, and put to the executive.
May 1st meeting. So that will go to 29th instead. He won't be available.
Did she say he wasn't available?
Yeah, he's not available till 29th.
Oh, I thought she was talking about the 29th. Karen, did you say that
The 29th for the regular month meeting, he's only available at 1 o'clock, but for the special meeting, do you need him? And I can check for 5/1 his availability.
Yes, we do need him.
Because he said after, what time did he say on the phone?
Yeah, it was...
After he had a meeting at 1 o'clock
Yes.
on the 1st.
So we'd have to do it at the end of the,
Right, that's what we...
yeah, the special meeting, or the couple session.
How are we doing?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Right.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before everybody leaves, I'd like to publicly apologize to everybody for my outburst and to Mr. Baker as well. I should have not lost my temper, but
Thank you, Chief.
I have one.
No, you, Chief.
Yep.
Some days I question it.
Can you call my
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 3:50.
Thank you.